Chapter 3. I had been assured that the old man could do nothing but hint at wild, disjointed, and incredible legends, and I had been warned that the natives made it unsafe to be seen talking with him. Yet the thought of this aged witness to the town's decay, with memories going back to the early days of ships and factories, was a lure that no amount of reason could make me resist. Curiosity flared up beyond sense and caution, and in my youthful egotism I fancied I might be able to sift a nucleus of real history from the confused, extravagant outpouring I would probably extract with the aid of whiskey. A quart bottle of such was easily, though not cheaply, obtained in the rear of a dingy variety store just off the square in Elliott Street. Re-entering the square, I saw that luck was with me, for, shuffling out of Payne Street around the corner of the Gilman house, I glimpsed nothing less than the tall, lean, tattered form of old Zadok Allen himself. In accordance with my plan, I attracted his attention by brandishing my newly purchased bottle, and soon realized that he had begun to shuffle wistfully after me as I turned into Waite Street on my way to the most deserted region I could think of. Before I reached Main Street, I could hear a faint and wheezy, "Hey, mister," behind me, and I presently allowed the old man to catch up and take copious pulls from the quart bottle. I began putting out feelers as we walked along to Water Street, and turned southward amidst the omnipresent desolation and crazily tilted ruins, but found that the aged tongue did not loosen as quickly as I had expected. At length I saw a grass-grown opening toward the sea between crumbling brick walls, with the weedy length of an earthen masonry wharf projecting beyond. Piles of moss-covered stones near the water promised tolerable seats, and the scene was sheltered from all possible view by a ruined warehouse on the north. About 4 hours remained for the conversation if I were to catch the 8 o'clock coach for Arkham, and I began to dole out more liquor to the ancient tippler, meanwhile eating my own frugal lunch. In my donations I was careful not to overshoot the mark, for I did not wish Zadok's vinous garrulousness to pass into a stupor. After an hour his furtive taciturnity showed signs of disappearing, and something or other had caused his wandering gaze to light on the low distant line of Devil Reef, then showing plainly and almost fascinatingly above the waves. He bent toward me, took hold of my coat lapel, and hissed out some hints that could not be mistaken. "That's what it all begun. That cursed place of all wickedness, what the deep water starts. Gate of hell, sheer drop down to a bottom no sounding line can tick. Old Captain Obed done it. Him that found out more'n was good for him in the South Sea Islands. Never was nobody like Captain Obed. Old limb of Satan. I can mind him a-tellin' about furrin parts and calling all the folks stupid for going to Christian meeting and bearing their burdens meek and lowly. Says they orter get better gods like some of the folk in the Injies. Gods as 'ud bring 'em good fishin' in return for their sacrifices, and 'ud really answer folks' prayers. Matt Elliott, his first mate, talked a lot too, only he was agin folks doing any heathen things. Told about an island east of Otaheite, where they was a lot of stone ruins older than anybody knew anything about, kind of like them on Ponape, in the Carolines, but with carvings of faces that looked like the big statues on East Island. They was a little volcanic island near that too, what they was other ruins with different carvings, ruins all worn away like they'd been under the sea once, and with pictures of awful monsters all over 'em. Well, sir, Matt, he says the natives around there had all the fish they could catch, and sported bracelets and armlets and head rigs made out of queer kind of gold and covered with pictures of monsters, just like the ones carved over the ruins on the little island. Sort of fish-like frogs or frog-like fishes that was drawed in all kinds of positions, like they was human beings. Nobody could get out of them where they got all the stuff, and all the other natives wondered how they managed to find fish in plenty even when the very next islands had lean pickings. Matt, he got to wondering too, and so did Captain Obed. Obed, he notices. Besides that, lots hadn't seen some young folks that drop out of sight for good from many year to year, and that they wasn't many folks around. Also, he thinks some of the folks looks darn queer even for Kanaki's. It took Obed to get the truth out of them heathens. I don't know how he had done it, but he began by trading for the gold-like things they wore. Asked them what they come from and if they could get more, and finally wormed the story out of the old chief. Wallachia, they called him. Nobody but Obed had ever believed the old yeller devil, but the captain could read folks like they was books. Nobody never believes me now when I tell 'em, and I don't suppose you will, young feller. They'll come to look at you. You have kinda got them sharp reading eyes like Obed had. The old man's whisper grew fainter, and I found myself shuddering at the terrible and sincere portentousness of his intonation, even though I knew his tale could be nothing but drunken fantasy. Wal, sir, Obed he learnt that there's things on this arth as most folks never heard about, and wouldn't believe if they did hear. It seems these Kanakas was sacrificing heaps of their young men and maidens to some kind of god things that lived under the sea, and getting all kinds of favors in return. They met the things on the little islet with the queer ruins, and it seems them awful pictures of frogfish monsters was supposed to be pictures of these things. Maybe they was the kind of critters as got all the mermaid stories and such started. They had all kinds of cities on the sea bottom, and this island was heaved up from there. Seems there was some of the things alive in the stone buildings when the island come up from sudden to the surface. That's how the Kanakas got wind they was down there. Made sign talk as soon as they got over being scared, and picked up a bargain before long. Them things like human sacrifices had 'em ages afore, but lost track of the upper world harder time. What they done to the victims, it ain't for me to say, and I guess Obed wasn't none too sharp about asking. But it was all right with the heathens, 'cause they'd been having a hard time and was desperate about everything. They gave a certain number of young folks to the sea things twice every year. May Eve and Halloween, regular as could be. Also give some of the carved knickknacks they made. What the things agreed to give in return was a plenty of fish. They drove 'em in from all over the sea, and a few gold-like things now and then. When it come to mating with them toad-looking fishes, the Kanakas kind of balked, but finally they learnt something as put a new face on the matter. Seems that human folks have got kind of relation to such water beasts, that everything alive come out into water once, and only needs a little change to go back again. Them things told the Kanakas that if they mixed bloods there'd be children, as would look human at first, but later turned more and more like the things till finally they'd take the water and join the main lot of things down there. And this is the important part, young feller. Them that turned into fish things and went into the water would never die. Them things never died except they was kilt violent. Well, sir, it seems by the time Obed knowed them from islanders, they was all full of fish blood from them deep water things. When they got old and had begun to show it, they was kept hid until they felt like taking to the water and quitting the place. Some was more attached than others, and some never did change quite enough to take the water. But mostly they turned out just the way them things said. Them as was born more like the things changed early. But them as was nearly human sometimes stayed on the island till they was past 70. Though they usually go down under for trial trips afore that. Folks as had took to the water generally come back a good deal to visit, so as a man would often be a-talking to his own 5 times great-grandfather, who had left the dry land a couple 100 years or so afore. Everybody got out of the idea of dying, except in canoe wars with the other islanders, or as sacrifices to the sea gods down below, or from snake bite or plague, or sharp galloping ailments or something afore they could take to the water. But simply look forward to a kind of change that wasn't a bit horrible after a while. They thought what they got was well worth all they had to give up, and I guess Obed kind of come to think the same himself when he chewed over old Wallachia's story a bit. Wallachia, though, was one of the few as hadn't got none of the fish blood, being of a royal line that intermarried with the royal lines on other islands. Wallachia gave him a funny kind of thingamajig made out of lead or something, that he said would bring up the fish things from any place in the water, what they might be a nest of them. The idea was to drop it down with the right kind of prayers and such. Wallachia allowed as was the things was scattered all over the world, so as anybody that look about could find a nest and bring 'em up if they wanted. Matt, he didn't like this business at all, and wanted Obed should keep away from the island, but the captain was sharp for gain and found he could get them gold-like things so cheap it'd pay him to make a specialty of 'em. Things went on that way for years, and Obed got enough of that gold-like stuff to make him start the refinery in Waite's old run-down fooling mill. Well, come about 38, when I was 7-year-old, Obed, he found the island people all wipe out between villages. Seems the other islanders had got wind of what was going on and had took matters into their own hands. Suppose they must have had, arter all them old magic signs as the sea things says was the only things they were afeard of. No telling what any of them Kanakies will chance to get a holt of when the sea bottom throws up some island with ruins older than the deluge. Pious cusses these was. They didn't leave nothing standing on either the main island or the little volcanic islet, except what parts of the ruins was too big to knock down. That naturally hit Obed pretty hard, seeing as his normal trade was doing very poor. It hit the whole town of Innsmouth, too, because in seafaring days what profited the master of a ship generally profited the crew proportionate. Most of the folks around the town took the hard times kind of sheep-like, and resigned, but they was in bad shape because the fishing was petering out and the mills wasn't doing none too well. Then the time Obed, he began a cursing at the folk for being dull sheep and praying to a Christian heaven as didn't help 'em none. He told 'em he'd know the folks as prayed to gods that give something you really need, and says if a good bunch of men would stand by him, he could maybe get a holt of certain powers and bring plenty of fish and quite a bit of gold. Here the old man faltered, mumbled, and lapsed into a moody and apprehensive silence, glancing nervously over his shoulder, and then turning back to stare fascinatingly at the distant black reef. When I spoke to him, he did not answer, so I knew I would have to let him finish the bottle. He licked its nose and slipped it into his pocket, then beginning to nod and whisper softly to himself. I bent close to catch any articulate words he might utter, and thought I saw a sardonic smile behind the stained bushy whiskers. Yes, he was really forming words, and I could grasp a fair portion of them. Poor Matt. Matt, he always was again it. Tried to line up the folk on his side, and had long talks with the preachers. No use. They run the congregational parson out of town, and the Methodist feller quit. Never did see Resolve Babcock, the Baptist parson, again. Wrath of Jehovah, I was a mighty little critter. But I heard what I heard and seen what I seen. Dagon and Ashtoreth, Belial and Beelzebub, golden calf and the idols of Canaan and the Philistines, Babylonish abominations, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. He stopped again, and from the look in his watery blue eyes I feared he was close to a stupor after all. But when I gently shook his shoulder, he turned on me with astonishing alertness and snapped out some more obscure phrases. Don't believe me, eh? Then just tell me, young feller, why Captain Obed and 20-odd other folks used to row about to Devil Reef in the dead of night and chant things so loud you could hear 'em all over town when the wind was right. Tell me that, eh? And tell me why Obed was allus dropping heavy things down in the deep water, t'other side of the reef where the bottom shoots down like a cliff lower than you can sound. Tell me what he done with that funny-shaped lead thingamajig as Wallachia give him. Hey, boy! The watery blue eyes were almost savage and maniacal now, and the dirty white beard bristled electrically. Old Zadok probably saw me shrink back, for he began to cackle evilly. Beginning to see, eh? How about the night I took my pa's ship glass up to a cupola and seed the reef a-bristling thick with shapes that drove off quick soon's the moon riz. Obed and the other folks was in the dory, but them shapes dove off the far side into the deep water and never come up. How'd you like to be a little shaver alone up in a cupola, a-watching shapes as one human shapes, eh? The old man was getting hysterical, and I began to shiver with a nameless alarm. He laid a gnarled claw on my shoulder, and it seemed to me that its shaking was not altogether that of mirth. Suppose one night you seed something heavy heaved off an Obed's dory beyond the reef, And then Lauren next day a young feller was missing from home. Eh? Did anybody ever see the hide or hair of old Hiram Gilman again? Did they? And Nick Pierce? And Llewellyn Waite? And Adoniram Southwick? And Henry Garrison? Eh? Well, sir, that was the time Obed begun to get on his feet again. Folks see his 3 daughters are wearing gold-like things as nobody's seen on 'em before. And smoke start coming out the refinery chimbley. Other folks was prospering too. Fish began to swarm into the harbor fit to kill. And heaven knows what size cargoes we begun to ship out to Newburyport, Arkham, and Boston. 'Twas then Obed got the Old Branch Railroad put through. Remember, I ain't saying Obed was setting on having things just like they was on that Kanaki Isle. I don't think he aimed at first to do no mixing, nor raise no young'uns to take to the water and turn into fishes with eternal life. He wanted them gold things and was willing to pay heavy, and I guess the others was satisfied for a while. Come in 46, the town done some looking and thinking for itself. Too many folks missing. Too much wild preaching at meeting of a Sunday. Too much talk about that reef. I guess I done a bit by telling Selectman Mowry what I see from the cupola. They was a party one night as followed Obed's crowd out to the reef, and I heard shots betwixt the dories. Next day Obed and 32 others was in jail with everybody a-wondering just what was afoot and just what charge agin 'em could be got to Holt. God, if anybody'd look ahead. A couple weeks later, when nothing had been thrown into the sea for that long. Zadok was showing signs of fright and exhaustion, and I let him keep silent for a while, though glancing apprehensively at my watch. The tide had turned and was coming in now, and the sound of waves seemed to arouse him.
I saw things no man
That
had ever seen,
awful night,
and the ocean
I
holds
seed 'em.
secrets better
I
left
was
alone.
up in the cupola. Hordes of 'em, swarms of 'em, all over the reef and swimming up the harbor into the Monoxet. God, what happened in the streets of Innsmouth that night? They rattled our door, but Pa wouldn't open. Then he clumb out the kitchen window with his musket to find Selectman Mowry and see what he could do. Mounds of the dead and the dying, shots and screams, shouting an old squire and town squire and New Church Green. Jail throat open, proclamation, treason. Called it the plague when folks come in and found half our people missing. Nobody left but them as a join in with Obed, and them things or else keep quiet. Never hear to my pa no more. The old man was panting and perspiring profusely. His grip on my shoulder tightened. Everything cleaned up in the morning. They was traces. Obed he kinder takes charge and says things is going to be changed. Others will worship with us at meeting time, and certain houses has got to entertain guests. They wanted to mix like they done with the Kanakis, and he for one didn't feel bound to stop 'em. Far gone was Obed, just like a crazy man on the subject. He says they brung us fish and treasure and should have what they hankered arter. Nothing was to be different on the outside, only we was to keep shy of strangers if we knowed what was good for us. We all had to take the oath of Dagon, and later on they was second and third oaths that some of us took. Them as would help special, would get special rewards, gold and sich. No use balking, for they was millions of 'em down there. They'd rather not start rising and wiping out humankind, but if they gave way, and forced to, they could do a lot toward just that. Yelled up enough sacrifices and savage knickknacks and harborage in the town when they wanted it, and they'd let well enough alone. All in the band of faithful. Order of Dagon, and the children should never die, but go back to the Mother Hydra and Father Dagon, what we all come from once.
It's cursed.
Ja, Cthulhu, Vertagen, Frunglue, Muglurnafen, Cthulhu Relea, Ugulagen, Vertagen. Old Zadok began to moan now, and tears were coursing down his channeled cheeks into the depths of his beard. God, what I seen since I was 15-year-old. Many tickle a parson. The folks as was missing, And them as killed theirselves. Them as told things in Arkham or Ipswich or such places was all called crazy. Like you're calling me right now. But God, what I seen. They'd have killed me long ago for what I know. Only I took the first and second oaths the day gone off on Obed. So I was protected unless in a jury and proved I told things knowing and deliberate. But I wouldn't take the third oath. I'd have died rather than take that. It got worse around Civil War time. When children born since 46 begun to grow up, some of them, that is. I was afeard. Never did no prying arter that awful night. I never seen one of them close to in all my life. That is, never no full-blooded one. Barnabas Marsh, that run the refinery now, was Obed's grandson by his first wife. Son of Onesiphorus, his eldest son. But his mother was another of them as want never seed outdoors. Right now Barnabas is about changed, can't shut his eyes no more, and is all out of shape. They say he still wears clothes, but he'll take to the water soon. The sound of the incoming tide was now very insistent, and little by little it seemed to change the old man's mood from maudlin tearfulness to watchful fear. He would pause now and then to renew those nervous glances over his shoulder, or out toward the reef, and despite the wild absurdity of his tale, I could not help beginning to share his vague apprehensiveness. Zadok now grew shriller and seemed to be trying to whip up his courage with louder speech.
Hey, you, why don't you say something? How would you like to be living in a town like this, with everything a-rotting and a-dying and boarded-up monsters crawling and bleating and barking and hopping around, black cellars and attics every way you turn? Hey, Walser, let me tell you that ain't the worst.
Zadok was really screaming now, and the mad frenzy of his voice disturbed me more than I care to own.
Curse you! Don't sit there staring at me with them eyes. I tell Obed Marsh he's in hell, and he's got to stay there. In hell, I says. Can't get me. I ain't done nothing nor told nobody nothing. Oh, you young feller. Why, even if I ain't told nobody nothing, I'm a-going to now. You just sit still and listen to me, boy. This is what I ain't never told nobody. I says I didn't get to do no prying arter that night, but I found things out just the same. You want to know what the real horror is, eh? Well, it's this. It ain't what them fish devils has done, but what they're a-going to do. They're a-bringing things up out of where they come from into the town. Been doing it for years, and slackening up lately. Them houses north of the river betwixt Water and Main Streets is full of 'em. Them devils and what they brung. And when they get ready, I say, when they get ready, ever hear tell of a Shoggoth? Hey, do you hear me? I tell you, I know what them things be. I seen 'em one night when...
The hideous suddenness and inhuman frightfulness of the old man's shriek almost made me faint. His eyes, looking past me toward the malodorous sea, were positively starting from his head, while his face was a mask of fear worthy of Greek tragedy. His bony claw dug monstrously into my shoulder, and he made no motion as I turned my head to look at whatever he had glimpsed. There was nothing that I could see, only the incoming tide with perhaps one set of ripples more local than the long-flung line of breakers. But now Zadok was shaking me, and I turned back to watch the melting of that fear-frozen face into a chaos of twitching eyelids and mumbling gums. Presently his voice came back, albeit as a trembling whisper.
Get out of here. Get out of here. They seen us. Get out for your life. Don't wait for nothing. They know now. Run for it, quick. Out of this town.
Another heavy wave dashed against the loosening masonry of the bygone wharf, and changed the mad ancient's whisper to another inhuman and blood-curdling scream. Before I could recover my scattered wits, he had relaxed his clutch on my shoulder and dashed wildly inland toward the street, reeling northward around the ruined warehouse wall. I glanced back at the sea, but there was nothing there. And when I reached Water Street and looked along it toward the north, there was no remaining trace of Zadok Allen. End of chapter 3.
No good party, day up. Ha, ha, ha.